Hey, my name is Alex, and welcome to my channel Cinco, where I always forget words. It's not the word dissect, it's I deconstruct my faith on a daily basis. Every time I open the word, I'm deconstructing my faith. I never leave anything up to assumption. And through what I learn and how I grow, I examine the world and I filter what I see through that lens. And so today I want to respond to what Joe Rogan had to say about Carl Lentz's situation and also just his overall opinion of who he is as a preacher, as a spiritual person, as he might say. I want to respond to a couple things that he has said, and not in any particular order, so you can always check here to see exactly kind of the topics I'm talking about if you just want to jump to one thing, or just enjoy everything, all of my opinions. But no, I really do take what I say seriously, and I respond to these things because I believe it is a biblical worldview that needs to be shared, that is not shared as often. I see more extremes on both sides of Christianity where it's too watered down or too closed-minded. And so whether you're a seasoned Christian or a new believer or just somebody that's looking to grow and understand, and where you've been a Christian for a while but you're starting to deconstruct your own faith for the first time, I hope that you find my perspective refreshing and fair. It does sometimes change. I will go back and forth as I attempt to grow, because I'm willing to be wrong in order to give the other side a shot. So, with that long introduction now done, I'm going to jump into what he has to say. So if you're watching this not on YouTube, you might probably want to go to YouTube, because that's where you'll have the two links to the two videos that I'll be referencing, and that's what I'll be quoting from during this video. One of the first things he pointed out was that people still fall in line with religious stereotypes, whether they realize it or not. And they fall into religious practices, and it's so painful as a Christian, as somebody who just sees this. I see what religion does. I see the structure. We're not going to say good or bad. That's another thought. But the structure that is good. I see so many people that bash Christianity or religion in general following the same structure. And it's so frustrating because they just don't see that they are just as religious, that they worship just as I do, just completely different things. And it's nice to see that Rogan realizes that and throws that out there. But I think he was more or less like most people, not everyone. So that's where I might disagree with him a little bit. I think everybody does. And then he flows into that by saying that a lot of people start to get their religious views. And when he says religious, he's talking more about how they act, not necessarily religion from a higher being, more from pop culture and less from the pulpit, less from church. And that's true. I really see that. If you really think about the ideas, the thoughts that are influencing, impacting the younger generations, or all generations now, what are people talking about? The opinions that people are repeating and listening to, they do not come from the church anymore. They are really coming from pop culture. And even Rogan was like, that's that's so dangerous, because they don't put any thought into their long-term effects. And that's true. If you're a parent, or if you're going to be, or whatnot, you have to be so mindful of what is being taught in media that we are watching. He says that they focus so much more on what pops, what clicks, what sells, than what is, he doesn't say what's true, but what he says like has a good long-term effect on society. And that is ultimately such a damaging thing for culture, and we're seeing it just continue to play out. And it's just only getting worse. You can really boil that down to greed for money, because they're just doing whatever sells best for money, and it's just bad. And the only pushback I would give is that I believe that writers are now giving more mindful thought into what they're writing. There is more propaganda in what is being written into shows and movies now. And that is frustrating a lot of people and pushing people away. So while they might be going for a quick dollar, there has also become a lot more activists inside of media. And that's another dangerous thing, because those activists are not for God. They are against God. Now, funny enough, Rogan realized that Lentz was fusing Christian doctrine with worldly ideas, and he even realized or stated that it doesn't work. He realized that Carl Lentz was trying to be in the world way too much, as we would say, and so much more focused on that than on simply making much of God. We need to decrease so that he can increase, God. And if you look at the lifestyle that Lentz was living, that was not one of that. Now, before I get any further, I know there are going to be people that say, hey, you're judging his life, you're judging these things about it, and you just said that you didn't want to get into his life, into his personal business. But I would argue that I will do that, but at the same time, 1 Timothy clearly talks about how overseers and people in church leadership, which would still fall into a pastor, they need to live above reproach. They need to have a good reputation among unbelievers around their community. And so that invites a certain amount of criticism and constructive criticism and critique into his life, especially if you're a pastor and you're handling doctrine. You are going to be scrutinized for how you do that, and it should be brought in. This is how we differentiate sheep from wolves. And when we're too light on this, when we try to be too kind and too peaceful, we let in wolves and they start to devour the flock. So finding that balance, it is a difficult thing, and that's a bigger thought than this video for today. And you see, Rogan has a really huge impact, and so it's worth commenting on his opinion or worldview. And he thought that Carl's motivation was not for God. It was really for lust. It was for sex. He, in a previous video that I won't necessarily link, he was making fun of him because of a picture that was shown of Carl. His shorts were so, like, literally right above his junk. Just to put it as kind as possible, I guess. It was like, wow, like the dude was just showing off everything, and he's in great shape. And Rogan was like, he wanted people to lust after him. And that was a very biblical way of saying it. It's true. He was living a lifestyle that was making much of himself and less of God. And that reflects so much in the way he handles the gospel as a whole. And people who saw Lentz for who he was not surprised by how he's handling things. But it is so intensely frustrating for Christians because, hey, this video went way too long, so I made it 2 parts just so that people, don't like to sit through long stuff. You can pick your topic, whatever. Thumbs if you like this part. Subs if you want to keep getting content from me. Do you think my opinion is good enough for your time? I was speechless. Couldn't even say anything. I was so honored. But I really want to hear from you. I enjoy comments. This is really a journey that I want to go together with people, and I want to be an encouragement to everyone. So I'll see you in the next video.